Not know the extent of Kirk's injuries. The University Alert says a suspect is in custody and police are investigating. Let's go to Justice correspondent Scott McFarland now. Scott, what are you learning?
This was a publicly advertised event by this conservative media icon, Charlie Kirk. It began at 2 p.m. on the East Coast, 12 p.m. local time in Utah. A public remarks, a public speech in front of a large crowd at Utah Valley University, an enormous school in central Utah. The FBI director, Kash Patel, has issued a statement saying, "We're closely monitoring reports of the tragic shooting involving Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University." And the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, says, "I'm being briefed by law enforcement following the violence directed at Charlie Kirk during his visit to Utah Valley University today." The law enforcement presence there is likely to include the FBI, and Utah Valley University has a police force, so does the community of Orrin, Utah. But at this point, we're going to lean on what the FBI and governor are saying, that this is a violent act that involved Charlie Kirk. His remarks have ended as the violence broke out there in Orrin, Utah. Maurice.
Scott, best you can tell at this point, obviously very early in the investigation and the situation, but it appears single gunman, single shot. Is that correct?
Well, the videos that are coming in, which we are working with our CBS News team, confirmed team to verify, have sounds in them consistent with gunshots, but we're going to leave that until we get further confirmation of the videos coming in. This is a rally of sorts. Everybody there seemingly would have some phone. There's video, there's audio. In fact, to get into this event today, you had to acknowledge that the videos of you would be usable for Charlie Kirk and his team. This is a heavily photographed event, but we'll be cautious right now with the videos we see coming in voluminously from sources at the scene.
Okay, Scott McFarland, thank you. And it does not appear at this point that anyone else has been hurt, again, as best we can tell. We do have video that has come into our newsroom. This is the event in Utah. Kirk speaking. A shot is heard, and then we stop the video here before he is struck, and he falls out of sight. And the people who took this video scrambled to get away to some kind of safety. Obviously, a lot of panic, a lot of fear, and people trying to just get out of there once this shooting went down. Our senior White House and political correspondent, Ed O'Keefe. Ed, what are you learning this afternoon? And if not, what do you know? We can put some context into Charlie Kirk's status as a conservative political activist.
Yeah, let's do that first, Maurice, because I think there may be many people watching right now wondering, why would we interrupt to share this information? Charlie Kirk is a 31-year-old originally from the Chicago suburbs, an incredibly influential figure in conservative politics. Bottom line this for you, to give you a sense of how influential. He was meeting last fall during the presidential transition with President Trump to pick cabinet nominees. He's a close friend of Donald Trump Jr., who was among those pushing the now president to pick J.D. Vance as his running mate. He flew with the vice president to Greenland when the administration was making that an issue earlier this year, and he's someone who has helped rally tens of thousands, if not millions, of younger conservative voters in this country to the Republican cause. This gathering that was being held here at the university in Utah includes what's called a prove me wrong table, where he sits there, as you see in this video, and in essence tries to debate issues with people who disagree with him. It's become a popular production or popular element of his social media work, and part of what draws younger people to these events is to watch him sort of refute or push back on issues or topics that he may have a disagreement with the person, but all meant to spark conversation and make people think. This is video, as we understand it, that was shot earlier today at the beginning of this event, and this was the kickoff for it. Now, there was reporting in recent days in Utah about concern among students at this university about having Kirk hold this event on the campus for what he calls the American Comeback Tour. This was to be the first stop in that tour, where reportedly thousands of students had signed a petition requesting that they bar Kirk from holding this event. And he spoke about it with the Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee on Kirk's podcast last week, where they said, you know, find it interesting that there's such opposition, but Lee encouraged him to go. So he's a controversial figure to those not in the conservative movement who disagree strongly with his views and those of President Trump, but an incredibly popular and essential figure in the Trump movement in recent years, and someone who virtually all Republican leaders would point to as someone who has brought new support, especially among younger male voters, to the Trump campaign and continue to back that coalition, Maurice.
Yeah, Ed, and speaking of which, Charlie Kirk, 31 years old. President Trump responding and reacting on social media. Here are his words. "We must all pray for Charlie Kirk, who has been shot. A great guy from top to bottom," the president says. God bless him. Ed, when you go to a Charlie Kirk event, I don't know if you have, we're talking about thousands of people, like a rock star.
Yes, and this was, again, the start of what he calls the American Comeback Tour. It was designed to draw thousands of young people to the event, as you see here, again, in this footage that we understand is from earlier today as it was beginning. He is very popular with younger men in this country, with college-aged voters, college-aged people, because of the popularity of his podcast and his other social media work. Turning Point USA is considered the largest conservative youth movement in this country, holds conferences on a fairly regular basis that draw all the top names in Republican politics, be it the president, the vice president, on down, those that would like to be president one day. Understand they have to be cultivating this organization in order to expect future support. So there will be widespread concern and acclaim for his work among Republican leadership up and down a ballot, and grave concern across the country among those who are supporters of the president and others in the conservative movement, because they understand that he has been such a rock star, a galvanizing force, someone who's brought people together. Maurice, we should also convey the president now speaking out here on Truth Social. Some of our colleagues were up in the West Wing when this news broke out across social media, and White House officials learned of it just as we did, in essence, and headed into closed-door meetings to sort out how exactly to respond. But all of those people, to give you a sense of his influence, know him, would have worked with him, and very well may be in the jobs they're in today, Maurice, because Kirk at one point or another would have said to Donald Trump, that's someone worthy of continuing to work alongside you at the White House.
Yeah, Ed, to call him hugely influential would be really understating the situation. Let's take a look at the video here one more time. You saw Kirk there at the beginning of the event, but here is the moment he's actually shot. There he is sitting on a stage. This is at Utah Valley University just a short time ago this afternoon. A single shot was fired. We're freezing the video here because of the disturbing nature of it all, but he is shot once, the shirt ripples, and he falls off to the right of our screen there. And then the people who took the video, they are obviously terrified and start running to get out of there. So again, Charlie Kirk, 31 years old, the conservative political activist, shot there at Utah Valley University a short time ago. This having a ripple effect throughout the political world as we speak. I want to bring in CBS News Chief Washington analyst Robert Costa. Bob, yet another political act of violence here in our country. This was not common for a long time, and now it seemingly is.
Good to be with you. A tragic incident today in Utah. I have covered Charlie Kirk for a long time, have spoken to him at so many political events over the years. This is someone who has galvanized conservatives across the country. He is seen as someone who is really able to gather the Trump movement, especially those under 30, and make them into a force. Now, there have been growing concerns on both right and left in recent years about this outbreak of political violence at so many events. There's that specter that hovers over so much. And what you're seeing in this incident is such a sense still of shock and surprise among those there that Charlie Kirk could be shot in broad daylight at one of these events. What's notable about Charlie Kirk and why this stuns so many is not just for the brazen act of violence we are witnessing here today, but that Charlie Kirk is someone who is very close to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. He is counted on as a confidant. Now, there is a huge generational gap between Charlie Kirk and President Trump. And some who might not follow politics incrementally might say, how does someone so youthful, so young, who seems to be an activist, maybe with a media profile, how does he become so close? Well, Charlie Kirk, during President Trump's political winter from 2021 through 2024, stood by him while Trump was facing criminal trials in New York, scrutiny from the Justice Department. He was there. He's a key figure in American politics, not just in the past decade where he's become this youth leader, but he is a key figure right now in American politics, close to Vice President Vance, close to President Trump, someone who helped rebuild the Trump movement, the Trump political campaign, when it was at its lowest moment in the wake of January 6, 2021, and President Biden's victory in the 2020 election. And if you've been with Charlie Kirk, and I have covered him at length, I've covered the conservative movement for nearly 20 years, he is popular for a lot of reasons, but in particular for the way he's able to debate and articulate his points. He is seen as this major presence on campuses who can go after those who are center or left of center or further left and really counter them with conservative points that people find powerful and potent and not just usual political pablum. He's also someone who, in the media, it can be both a podcast force, a television force on cable, can have these huge events with thousands of people. And this is why I'm just getting so many text messages right now, Maurice. It's a shocking moment in the country to have a political figure shot in this way. But really, for those who know him on the right, it is taking their breath away as they wait for more details.
It really is a shock to the system. Robert Costa, thank you so much for the insight. Now, in a statement, the university said a single shot was fired on campus toward Kirk, and a suspect is now in custody. That is coming from Utah Valley University, where Charlie Kirk was shot a short time ago. Joining us now is CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd. Now, Sam, what about security at an event like this? What would you know about the setup there and the kind of security that would follow a Charlie Kirk around the country?
Well, Maurice, it is entirely possible that Charlie Kirk has his own personal security based upon the level of his notoriety and the very public events that he holds all across the country. Because Charlie Kirk is not an elected official, he does not have access to, example, Secret Service like politicians and White House officials may.
like a kind of in the crevice of the buildings with a bridge across it. And then behind it was like a grassy open area with a little bit of sitting that's kind of in a stadium seating. But it was like a little hill.
And this is on the campus of Utah Valley University.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a student there, or
campus.
do you have an affiliation with the university?
No, I'm old. I'm in my 50s, so a lot of these people were college-age students, but there was quite a few, actually, I would say, that were around my age, too.
Yeah. And where did you get out? You ran out of there. Where'd you go, and what did everybody else do who was with you?
We all just ran to our vehicles, and I don't know where everybody's scattered. I don't know if, some of them were students that, had to catch a bus or whatever. But the ones that had cars, we all ran to our cars. I mean, I parked a little ways away, so it was a little bit of a trek, but it was fine.
But again, interesting, as you point out, no security, open area right there at Utah Valley University. Radon Dasheen, I really appreciate your insight and your telling us your story. We thank you for that. Let's go back to Ed O'Keefe. Ed, what you're hearing now is that there was no security at an event, a political event here in the United States. It's come to a point where it seems like that's going to be necessary, mandatory going forward.
Yeah, but I think as Radon so expertly described it, this is meant to be sort of a public gathering in a public square kind of event, right? That this kind of violence wouldn't necessarily happen. And she described quite well also how the prove me wrong format works. That people come up, they raise an issue with him, they debate it for a few minutes, and the crowd watches and enjoys the exchange, as raucous or policy-driven as it may end up being in that moment. Maurice, we're obviously, given that Kirk is a character and a leader and a creature of the digital space, it is no surprise that we're seeing pretty swift reaction from all sides. We heard from the president, of course, asking for prayers, the vice president, the defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, whose nomination was buoyed by support from Kirk and his movement. But we're also hearing very quickly from Democratic leaders, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who hosted Kirk on his own podcast earlier this year, very quickly, moments after this happened, on X, said that the attack is disgusting, vile, and reprehensible in the United States of America. We must reject political violence in every form. Hakeem Jeffries, who of course is the House Democratic leader, very quickly saying political violence is never acceptable. My thoughts and prayers are with Charlie Kirk and his family. And notably, Gabrielle Giffords, the former Arizona Democratic Congresswoman, herself a survivor of an assassination attempt and an advocate for stricter gun laws in this country, said she's horrified to hear that Charlie Kirk was shot in an event in Utah. Democratic societies will always have political disagreements, but we must never allow America to become a country that confronts those disagreements with violence, something she obviously would know very well. So the reaction will continue to pour in. But again, I think the Eyewitness there described very well what it is that Kirk has been doing for years now in person with like-minded conservatives and those that want to take him on, and how he uses those events to buoy what he does online. He also hosts a radio show and is, again, a pretty frequent collaborator and ally of the president and those in his administration.
Yeah, excellent points there, Ed O'Keefe. Thank you. I want to bring back Robert Costa. And Bob, you sit here and we're talking about another political shooting in America. You just can't help but wonder, how did we get here? What is going on? On one hand, there's an event where it's debate me. They're debating the issues in a civilized fashion, back and forth, and then you have this. What has happened here?
Maurice, it's hard to understand how and why any person would commit a horrific act of violence, especially in this political setting. And we're still trying to gather more information here at CBS News about what exactly took place. What I can speak to broadly as a reporter who has covered Charlie Kirk and his political movement is that he is someone who has carved out a space as someone who is a major ally for President Donald Trump. He is also someone who has espoused conservative views across the board, and he is proud of those views. He does not in any way take a back seat to participating in the public debate. He welcomes debate. He goes to campus after campus, has event after event. I have covered some of his Turning Point USA events, and they, in many ways, echo Trump rallies. And they cover the full spectrum of issues that have become important to the Trump movement and to the conservative movement that Charlie Kirk has long counted himself a part of. And those include cultural issues. That includes foreign policy. He has spoken out about what is going on in Europe, with Russia's war against Ukraine. He has spoken out about different cultural debates in this country. He has spoken out about President Trump and all of the challenges he has faced politically and legally. So if you don't know Charlie Kirk, understand this is someone who is in the trenches and enjoys being in the trenches. Whether someone does not like Mr. Kirk and his views or loves Mr. Kirk and his views, I have seen Charlie Kirk up close so many times have fun with the process. He has called himself a happy warrior who embraces the idea of a political fight. But a political fight in no way means violence. It means a healthy debate. And this is someone, though, who has been in the arena. And some people in this day and age retreat from the arena, worried about violence, criticism. Kirk is someone I have covered again and again, go right into that arena, whether it be in an arena or a college campus, and say, let's have the debate, let's have the discussion. And that's why he has so many admirers on the right, inside the Republican Party. They see him as a rising star. And it's notable to me that even within the past 5 or 6 months, I was having conversations with top Republicans who said Charlie Kirk, down the line, among other names, is someone they considered a future presidential candidate. He was seen as someone who had a real political future, whether it was running for elective office or being a political activist, maybe working in the administration at some point. But he has always said to his allies and friends, he likes being on the outside. He likes being on these campuses, having the direct back and forth. And he was shot today doing what he loves the most, which is engage with people in a roaring debate in a rally setting.
And some of those cultural issues, including a quote like this one from Charlie Kirk: what is going on with women and not wanting to prioritize family? And, you know, a quick search will show you that he is seen as one who wants women to have babies and work less. Things like that. He relished that kind of thing, being a provocateur, getting people to think and debate. And that's probably what he was engaged in right there, Bob.
I think about his family. I know many of Kirk's friends in text message right now are talking about his family more than his political views. He has a young family. He has spoken openly at recent public events about how much getting married and becoming a father has meant to him as a man in a younger part of his life. And this is something that has political seismic impact because of his high profile and his association with the president of the United States. But let it also not be forgotten that even as he had all of these positions, many of them seen as controversial on different issues, he had a huge galaxy of support on America's right and center right. He was seen as someone who was dynamic and has always been seen as someone who is dynamic and really out there, willing to engage in political battle. But you see today, just across the American political spectrum, shock, and the president of the United States weighing in quickly. So many Republican politicians now on social media doing the same. It's a moment, a crossroads, where everyone's not really sure what's the next turn.
Yeah, disturbing video right there, Bob, as we watch Charlie Kirk getting shot this afternoon at Utah Valley University there at an event where he was doing some give and take with people there on all aspects of the political spectrum. Let's go to Justice correspondent Scott McFarland. Scott, you're learning anything new right now about the investigation?
Yeah, let's start off. The FBI is now on the ground. Their Salt Lake City field office has 17 resident agents around that area, and they're there helping lead this investigation. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, this is customary, as is always the case in these types of shootings where there is a potential fatality or a grievous injury. They respond to the scene as well. The campus is closed. That's no surprise. It's a huge campus, a sweeping part of central Utah. Tens of thousands of students. They've closed that campus, and we know we've got reports of people seeing images of somebody being handcuffed on site. Near the site of this shooting today, a person being handcuffed, and there is a university alert to students that somebody is in custody, but we haven't gotten that from police yet. You have so many images, including the ones you're seeing right now, that have all these parallels The type of sunny day, the red hats in the crowd, so many parallels to the images you saw last July from Butler, Pennsylvania. That same elevated view down to the stage. There's obviously going to be some concern. We're hearing it articulated already about the metastasizing violence against people who are in the political space, people who do political speeches, people who are in politics. It's noteworthy, I think, Maurice, that today was jury selection for the man in Florida charged in the second alleged assassination attempt against President Trump last year. Yeah, there were two. This is going to raise concerns about more violence, more political threats in an already toxic moment.
Concerns across the board, Scott. Vice President J.D. Vance posting on X just a short time ago, "Dear God, protect Charlie in his darkest hour." I believe we also have a statement from the university, the Utah Valley University. Here it is. Today at about 12:10, a shot was fired at the visiting speaker, Charlie Kirk. He was hit and taken from the location by his security. Campus police is investigating. A suspect is in custody. Notably, there's no word on Charlie Kirk's condition. Sam Vinograd, we talked a little bit earlier about security, and we had a witness who told us right here on the air that there was none. They simply had the place open at the university. People walked in, as apparently they normally do, and sat down for this event. What are you hearing about security going forward, or at least since then?
Well, we did have a witness indicate that there was no screening for individuals prior to attending the event, which is surprising on the one hand because of Charlie Kirk's notoriety and the explosion in political violence that we've seen in this country. At this time, we should anticipate that a range of law enforcement entities are investigating what happened and working to ensure that this is an isolated threat. Law enforcement and intelligence officials have been warning for years that the biggest threat, terrorism-related threat facing this country, comes from what we call lone actors, individuals who radicalize and mobilize to violence alone. We understand from various public statements that one suspect is in custody, which does lead us to believe that a lone actor may have been the perpetrator. But at this time, state and local law enforcement will be working to ascertain that this threat is contained, that there's no ongoing threat to the public. And then if it appears that there is some sort of terrorism-related nexus or hate crime-related nexus, the FBI will likely get involved to assist the investigation and to review whether federal charges are warranted, in addition to whatever other state and local charges may be reviewed.
So as best we can tell, Sam, one shot was fired, yes?
As far as we know at this time, one shot was fired and one suspect is in custody. We do not know what Charlie's condition is, and law enforcement has yet to brief the public on whether they believe that there is no ongoing threat to the public. So I would anticipate that there will be a press briefing in the coming hours to articulate what we know about the suspect and what we know about Mr. Kirk after this tragic incident.
For sure. Sam Vinograd, thank you so much. So again, there he is, the 31-year-old political activist on the conservative side, Charlie Kirk, speaking at 12:10 this afternoon at Utah Valley University, getting shot. Once there, it appears, to the chest. A suspect is in custody. Kirk's condition at this moment unclear. Now, reaction coming in all over the political spectrum, across it, far and wide, including the vice president. Ed O'Keefe has more on his reaction. He was very close with the administration, Ed.
Absolutely, Maurice. The vice president a little while ago posting a photo of himself with Charlie Kirk, forgive me, and Donald Trump Jr. saying, "Dear God, protect Charlie in his darkest hour." Again, Kirk was among those, along with Donald Trump Jr., who pushed President Trump to select J.D. Vance as his running mate last year. So there's the tweet a little while ago from the vice president, and Charlie Kirk, again, quite close to both of those gentlemen, the vice president and the president's son. The president himself a little while ago on his social media platform saying, "We must all pray for Charlie Kirk, who has been shot, a great guy from top to bottom. God bless him." And we've seen reaction from virtually every other senior Republican lawmaker, cabinet official, and other Republican and conservative leaders, and of course denunciation of violence from Democrats as well, as we await word on Kirk's condition. Again, he was holding what he calls the American Comeback Tour on this campus. He was scheduled to hold today's event and be back in Utah for another one later this month. These events, as you see him there under that tent, started much more modestly, where he would sit in a public space like a university campus or a park, and in essence hold what he called prove me wrong sessions with people who had differing views on whatever it might be, and they would have a conversation that ultimately ended up online or being used in Kirk's podcasts and other productions. He's also the founder of Turning Point USA, a major and incredibly influential conservative youth movement in this country that helped elect President Trump, that helped elect others up and down the ballot. And Kirk has used that power also to put pressure on fellow Republicans to stand by the president's priorities, to support his cabinet nominees, and to ensure that things were going smoothly for the Trump agenda on Capitol Hill. So many on Capitol Hill today also quite concerned about all of this. But Maurice, it comes, as Scott said, as we're they're seeking accountability in the second Trump assassination attempt against the president last year, amid growing concerns generally about violence in this country, and in this case, in a perfectly open space, which is a university campus, as they should be. Seeing this incredible shooting here occur in front of hundreds, if not thousands, of people.
Stunning in so many ways. Ed O'Keefe, thank you for that. And we're hearing from an eyewitness who recalls what the alleged shooter actually said. Let's listen.
Yeah, the man who, after they took him down, he yelled, "I'd do it again."
Wow.
Okay, that's what a witness said, that the one shooter who is in custody, we are told, the person said, "I would do it again." Scott McFarlane, as we try to make some sense of this thing here, there is no sense really. What are you learning about the investigation at this point?
The two law enforcement officials speaking with CBS News confirmed there is a suspect in custody right now. The university had said that. Now we have law enforcement sources saying the same. There's these images that are being shared of somebody being handcuffed on the ground on site near where the shooting was there at Utah Valley University. University is closed. There's an emergency response there being flooded by law enforcement, just as you'd expect. FBI, ATF, local police, campus security as well. There is this notation I made for myself to underscore a point. This event was publicized. This was not one of those you had to have a pass and you had to have a backdoor way of figuring out where the event was going to be held for security reasons. This was a publicized event, location and time. It was to begin at noon local time, 2 p.m. on the East Coast in Utah. Utah is an open carry state, but there are restrictions on the carrying of firearms at schools, colleges, and universities. Maurice.
Okay, Scott McFarlane, thank you. Let's go back to Sam Vinograd. As people try to get their heads around the idea that there's been another political shooting in America, not new to this country, but there had been something of a break until the two attempts on Donald Trump. What is going on out there that we can put into some context here, Sam?
Well, Maurice, we have actually seen an explosion in politically motivated violence for several years predating the assassination attempts against President Trump. For several years, lone actors and small groups of individuals motivated by political animus have been threatening to conduct and conducting violent incidents across this country. As you mentioned, political violence has always been a part of this country's history, but there are many factors that have really spurred this explosion of political violence. Certainly easy access to weapons, certainly access to social media and the internet that will allow individuals to carefully and easily plan their attacks and get access to tactics and techniques for how to conduct these attacks and to connect with like-minded individuals. Certainly, the perceived glorification of individuals who perpetuate these kinds of attacks can also serve to inspire others. In the aftermath of this kind of incident, a key concern for law enforcement officials is always whether there will be copycat attacks or some kind of retaliatory attack by individuals who feel impacted by this tragic incident. So we're in a heightened threat environment, generally speaking, and certainly after this attack, law enforcement is on high alert.
All true. Sam Vinograd, thank you. We are also told that on social media video, we can hear the audio where an audience member asked Kirk about mass shooters in America right before the gunshot. An audience member says, do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Kirk says, counting or not counting gang violence, and that is when that single shot was fired. I want to bring back Bob Costa here. Kirk has a massive following, Robert, and he is on the radar of a lot of people in politics.
He is, and we saw in recent minutes the California governor, a Democrat, Gavin Newsom, widely considered a major possible candidate for the presidency in 2028, writing on social media that he extends his prayers and his thoughts to the family, and that he called this disgusting, vile, and reprehensible to happen in the United States of America. He said we must reject political violence in every form. That's from California Governor Gavin Newsom. What's notable here is that Governor Newsom is someone who Charlie Kirk has engaged with in a podcast conversation. And Kirk is on the front lines of not only having these rallies like he did today in Utah, but he is someone who is going toe-to-toe with people of different views, like Governor Newsom, in a podcast setting. And if you watch Kirk, he can be a fiery presence on stage, but often in the podcast or the more conversational format, he's quite muted and almost low-key, trying to banter back and forth to make his points, calmly, really going into his own argument. And so you see in that statement from Newsom, not just a statement from a Democratic politician decrying violence, but he has engaged and interacted with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk has these relationships, as we've talked about, on the right. He has the relationships with his friends. He has his wife, Erica, a son and a daughter. He's a father, an activist. He's a Republican and a conservative. He's also someone who Democrats have talked to in different settings in recent years, and it shows a respect for Kirk from the left. Newsom doesn't just give his time to anyone. He is a very powerful, influential figure in the Democratic Party. He took time to talk to Kirk because he knew that Kirk, I'm told, had influence on the right, had influence in the country. And that, more than a lot, really speaks to Kirk's power in this country. He's a politically powerful person, not only because President Donald Trump has put his hand on Kirk's shoulder and said, this is one of my guys, this is one of my key allies, but Democrats have recognized Kirk as someone who's rising and someone who has to be engaged with if they, too, want to be major figures.
Bob, we're talking about a guy who is 31 years old, and it was in 2012, so 13 years ago, that he founded Turning Point USA, his political organization that has grown by leaps and bounds. And we're getting from their chief marketing officer this statement. He was shot in the neck. He's at the hospital, and it doesn't look good. That's the update we're getting right now on Charlie Kirk's condition, that it does not look good. Ed O'Keefe. Millions of people follow this man and love him, and now this.
Yeah, this is a really distressing development, obviously, for his followers and really for anyone who's concerned about how political discourse is being carried out in this country now. And as Sam said earlier, political violence has always been part of our history, but that doesn't make it acceptable in any way. And, you know, again, if you're somebody who's learning about this and is not familiar with Charlie Kirk's work, again, an incredibly young guy, someone who's, and I appreciate Bob bringing this up, that has shown great personal joy and excitement in being engaged in the process. That's what we should hope all young people are doing as they engage in the American political process and system, right? Is to have joy and hope and aspirations, whether you agree or disagree with them at all. But much like labor leaders in this country, religious figures, civil rights leaders through the decades, this is someone who's been able to galvanize people on behalf of certain political figures or certain parties and to get them to turn out. And that's what makes him so influential. And what has made him so intriguing is that he's done it at such a young age and in the digital space, when those of us in the media and in elected politics are trying to sort out how do we reach people? How do we get them to turn out for our events? How do we get them to donate? How do we get them to vote? Kirk has done that, and he's done it across radio, he's done it across television appearances, through podcasting, and through personally engaging leaders in the Republican Party who he's come to meet and who he's come to influence. And again, for those that have joined us later in this coverage, to reiterate the influence that Kirk has had over the Trump movement, but particularly the second Trump administration. We know this was somebody who met frequently with the president-elect last year after the election to go through potential cabinet selections and say, yes, that person, not that person. Send that person to a different department. Put this person up for that job. Someone who rallied skeptical Republicans to the side of, for example, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and encouraged or put pressure on them to support him earlier this year when there were questions about his qualifications. Someone with incredible influence at the White House, someone who's visited the White House hundreds of times, and who today is very much in the thoughts of those that work in the West Wing.
And so strikingly young, Ed, 31 years old. He's been at this for at least 13 years, founding Turning Point USA back in 2012. Again, from his marketing people, this statement: he was shot in the neck. He's at the hospital. It does not look good at this point. So we will continue to monitor his condition as best we can as we move forward here. We want to bring you the words of another eyewitness on the phone right now, Taylor Dufour. He was at the event with his wife. Taylor, what did you see, what did you hear, and where are you now?
I'm not in our vehicle. We're still in the parking lot. We can't get out now. We were about 30 feet to the side of him, actually almost directly in line of the shot, is what it looks like from looking at videos. Everything was great. The conversation was not heated or anything. And then, yeah, next thing you know, we heard one shot fired, and everybody just dropped down and kind of started to go into panic mode. So my first thought was get my wife to the ground and lay on top of her and help those around us if they needed.
I can imagine just pandemonium, panic, and so forth. Did you see what happened to Charlie as he got shot and went down?
I actually didn't see it actually happen, but I did look over as he was still in his chair falling. I could see a lot of blood coming out of his neck.
EMS rushing to the scene?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the police, everybody, that works in that industry, they were great. They got right to work, and we appreciate all those.
What was going through your mind? You said 1 second they were debating politics in a civilized way, and then this. What were you thinking as this was happening?
We actually, me and my wife have talked about that. It's such a great group of people that come together to listen to him, the joy and the happiness he brings to people, and the things that he talks about. And on the way there, we were talking about how cool it is that he doesn't have to live in the fear of having bulletproof glass around him and everything, because the people are so great that surround those events.
And how you feeling right now? What's your main thought?
I'm actually upset. I'm sad that anybody could hate someone this bad, and that's such a great, people coming together regardless of political views. It's we're all coming together to build America up, make America a better place, and then we have this, like how somebody could hate somebody so bad. It sucks.
Yeah, I'll let that be the last word.
There were so many women and children here in the crowd that were just devastated and running scared, and we were just, and you can't help everyone. It's scary.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. Mr. Dufour, thank you for your observations, your insight, and talking with us. We really appreciate that. Once again, the conservative political activist Charlie Kirk has been shot during an event at Utah Valley University. 31 years old, the CEO and co-founder of the conservative youth organization Turning Point USA. In a statement, the university said a single shot was fired on campus toward Kirk and a suspect is in custody. Turning Point's chief marketing officer is telling CBS News that Kirk was shot in the neck and is at the hospital. She also said it does not look good. His condition at this point has not been made public, but that's all we know at this moment. CBS News has confirmed there have been threats against Kirk, who had his own security detail. Today's shooting comes amid a spike in political violence across the country. Motive for the shooting today still not known. If and when we get further updates on Charlie Kirk's condition, condition, we will bring that to you. Our coverage will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news, and tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Maurice Dubois.
Alone saved me more than $4,000.
I've had 5 claims, and that is $3,500 that I've kept in my pocket.
So, who's going to pay for your next car repair? You or Endurance?
Whether you put 10,000 or 100,000 miles a year on your car, if it's less than 20 years old, Endurance has you covered with unlimited miles. Plus, your plan covers 24/7 roadside assistance anywhere in the country. Call right now to get $300 off any plan, plus a full year of our top-tier elite benefits, a $2,000 value free. And all Endurance plans come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. But you have to act now. Call 1-855-276-6616 for a free quote. That's 1-855-276-6616.
Look, we're great with teeth. We're toothbrushes.
But we're not the best with tongues, cheeks, and everything in between.
We need backup. The clinically proven essential oils and listerine